Good afternoon. I'm now calling to order our meeting of the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee. My name is Cam Gordon. I'm chair of the committee. And today I'm joined by all committee members, council members Fry, Bender, Andrew Johnson, Gooden, and Cano. We have a relatively short agenda, 6 items. 5 of them are consent. 1 is discussion. I'll read through the consent items, and if any committee member would like to pull something off for discussion, feel free to do so. The first item is approving the Sumner Glenwood Phase 2 Neighborhood Action Plan and their Phase 2 allocation of up to $100,000 and approving an associated resolution amending the 2015 general appropriation by increasing the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department agency appropriation fund, and also authorizing proper city officials to enter into any contracts or agreements necessary to implement those activities. Second item is approving City Council appointment of Cindy Hillier from Ward 13 to our Public Health Advisory Committee. She represents the Minneapolis Public Schools for a term expiring in December 31st, 2015. The third item is authorizing execution of an amendment to contract number 37640 with Pace Analytical Services, increasing their contract by $40,000 for a revised total of $183,500 for environmental testing of air, soil, and water. That item will be referred to Ways and Means. The fourth item is authorizing a contract with the Minnesota Department of Health to accept revenue in the amount of approximately $250,000 for home visiting services as part of our maternal and child home visiting services in our contract with the State Department of Health. The fifth item is referring the recently introduced animal care control and regulation ordinance amendments to staff. This is essentially work on the entire package with the various provisions, sections, and articles related to the care, control, and regulation of animals. Those are our 5 consent items. Any questions or comments on any of those? Then I will move all of those. Seeing no comments. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Those motions carry. And then we have our 1 discussion item. I'm going to ask Mr. Blinn to come forward to present to us our Community Innovation Fund. This is the first time we've, I want to call them awards, but I'm not sure if that's the proper approved, or we're approving contracts maybe with.
Funding agreements.
Yes. Funding agreements, thank you. I knew there was a certain term of art. Well, welcome, Mr. Blinn. Why don't you explain it in the accurate terms?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and council members. And I'll be joined shortly by David Zaffron of the Commission to help this presentation.
Thank you.
We are requesting approval for funding for the projects. This is the first year of the program. The application process opened in April. We received, is that terribly loud? We received 19 applications. We are able to recommend 12 of them for funding with the $300,000 we have. So to describe the process, I'll turn it over to Mr. Zaffron, who led the committee that reviewed all the applications and made the recommendations first to the NCEC and then finally to this committee. So.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Zaffron.
Good afternoon, committee. I believe that you all saw the final guidelines for the Community Innovation Fund in May, and it was those guidelines that formed the criteria that we used for evaluating all of these proposals that came in June. We met midway through the month. All of the members of our committee evaluated all of the proposals that came in according to the criteria that we had set forth out of the guidelines, with the key criteria for this fund being the degree to which these projects are innovative and or locally relevant solutions to city identified goals, and then also the degree to which these neighborhood organizations are partnering with another neighborhood organization or with another community organization on this project. Partnerships were very heavily encouraged in the guidelines for this fund. So using those criteria, everybody scored all of the proposals we met, we discussed, and I would say that the The primary goal of our work when we met was to see how we could fund more than the strict minimum number of projects that we received proposals for, since we saw a number of very good proposals. And we were able to do that just in looking at the proposals, seeing where we thought that some of these may be able to still be successful with less than the full amount that had been requested over the 2-year term, and fund a larger number of projects that came forth. The other criteria that I think we were really looking at as a committee was geographic spread, and making sure that these really represent the city as a whole, and that these projects are not just going to one or the other area of the city. And I think that we achieved that. So with that, we came to the final set of recommendations that you have before you. And with that, I would welcome any questions that you might have. And I believe that Mr. Blinn would as well.
I don't see any questions right now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So maybe I've one question. Did was this $300,000 total that was available, and did we allocate or is all $300,000 committed?
Yes, 300,000 is available, and as David mentioned, they stretched it out a bit, funding some applications a little bit less than had been requested in order to stretch the number of applications that are funded, but all $300,000 is allocated in these recommendations.
Are there any particular recommendations you want to highlight?
Well, there are many good projects. We have, for example, a project in the Midtown Phillips neighborhood for startup funding for a low wattage, is it a low, whatever the term is, FM radio station that would broadcast in the Somali language for the Somali community. Again, this is seed money to get them off the ground. There is a project in the Botno Neighborhood Association to look at some air quality data to determine if there are some improvements that can be made in terms of the air quality in that particular neighborhood with some of the major emission sources. There are quite a few planning projects, which is kind of what we expected when we met with neighborhoods and discussed this program with them. For example, Citizens for a Loring Park Community, they would like to fund a landscape plan to enhance the look of the Lyndale-Hennepin project as it goes forward to augment what's already been discussed in that. We have the Cleveland, no, I'm sorry, the Wyndham Park neighborhood, which has just the germ of a tool library that's just gotten off the ground. This grant would allow them to expand that greatly, to have space that would be leased and then expand the number of tools that are available in that area, which is important for home rehab work that people are doing themselves. So there's really a wide variety of projects that are proposed. And again, we didn't focus on a particular or a single city goal. For this first round of funding, all city goals are in place, so that's why you'll see quite a variety of projects. And again, all of them are very worthwhile. Even I don't want to single out some at the expense of others, but there's many, many good projects.
Thank you.
And one more thing, if I could add, as David mentioned, one point of emphasis for this program is collaboration between neighborhood organizations and community-based groups in their neighborhoods. And an example of that is the East Phillips neighborhood is partnering with Little Earth to fund a youth arts program within Little Earth. And we're hoping that that not only provides the means for kids in Little Earth to develop art skills, but also to form a closer collaboration between those two organizations.
Thank you. Yeah, I was impressed with the variety of ideas and also the variety of different partnerships that neighborhood organizations are proposing. Councilmember Frye, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I appreciate the specificity in the allocation as opposed to just generally handing money over. But I guess I had a few questions, and it may just be that this is the information I have before me is a summary, a synopsis, and we don't have. But you know, well, to use your example, the East Phillips Improvement Coalition, they're proposing to partner with the Native American Youth Arts Collective to use art as an engagement tool among youth living at Little Earth. Wonderful program. Do you have any idea if the 25 or 29,000? So that would be the 25,000 if that's used literally for the art, or that's used to hire an organizer or staffing, or I mean, that would just be one example of several where I would want to know the end specific.
Right. In that particular project, Mr. Chair and Councilmember Fry, in that particular project, there was some money used for staffing costs for the kind of program coordinators. As I recall, most of that project, the budget for that project is for actual kind of arts materials, taking the kids to various places throughout the city, to art museums, to expose them to that. So I can't, off the top of my head, give you the exact breakdown, but it's some of both.
Okay.
Would there be more information available for council members if they wanted to review an application, for example?
We can provide all the applications to all the council members if you wish.
Thank you.
And I guess the end point that I'm trying to make is I'm all for funding a specified project. I'm not for just randomly subsidizing. I want to see what what specifically the money is going towards. And again, like this particular project seems like it certainly warrants the 25,000 that we're giving them. I just want to see where the specifics are going.
Mr. Chair, and Councilmember Fry, one thing to add too, as we mentioned kind of at the onset, I've been instructed, these are not grants, which they're not. They're funding agreements with neighborhoods, and they in turn have agreements with various organizations such as this arts group. We will have specific requirements within that funding agreement for them to meet in terms of, in that case, the number of kids that are participating, what they're doing, what the money is spent on.
Great.
So we don't, and it's a reimbursable grant. So in other words, they expend the money, we reimburse them. So we don't just hand over a check.
Thank you.
And I also will note, I think one of the important things to do for this first round is also look back and evaluate and see how well different people performed on their proposals in different organizations. Councilmember Johnson, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think you might have just answered my question, but I think it was something that Councilmember Fry would probably find helpful in this as well. I think we had a staff directive to post applications for any sort of funding requests, grants, those sort of things online on our agenda for the individual organizations awarded. I don't see that with this. I do see the summary, which is very nice and helpful. Is that something that with these we will see after this meeting, or any sort of affirmative vote, those will be posted online, or do we feel for some reason that these don't apply, or how does this ultimately comply with that staff directive?
Well, certainly we will provide them to the council members. And in the future, my mistake, we should have provided those in advance of this meeting. In terms of posting them online, we've been instructed by the attorney's office that until we actually do a funding agreement, none of those applications are public information. So we have to wait until we actually go through the approval process with the city council, do a funding agreement, which takes 2 or 3 weeks, and then we can post all the applications online.
And then so we're anticipating that those will all be posted online after. Okay.
But as soon as I get back to the office, all of the council members will have access to those applications.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say, I think this is a really great program. I'm really excited to see a lot of citywide issues being addressed here in neighborhoods through innovative partnerships in the community. And I hope in the first year of this program that we can take some of the lessons that we learn from that and hopefully look, if it's successful, to expand this approach to funding neighborhoods that are doing innovative work, that are addressing some of these big citywide issues locally, and that are using innovative partnerships to do that. So I just wanted to thank you for the time you put into identifying these great projects.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate that, but I also want to acknowledge the work that the NCEC put into this. We actually had a series, I think, of 9 listening sessions with neighborhoods about a year ago. Actually, it was a year ago last winter. So NCC members were out in the dead of winter listening to neighborhoods as to how they saw this program shaping up. And as David mentioned, the heavy lifting in terms of reading all the applications, scoring the applications was done by committee members of the NCC.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I don't see any other comments, so I will move approval then of the staff recommendation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And then seeing no further business before us, this meeting is adjourned.